All right, and we're live. Welcome back, everyone. This is the first. Is it the first? No, it's the second episode already of 2025.
First in 2025.
Yeah, it's 2025. And we're back, and we're back with Santiago from XDFi. You've had the chance to see him here some time ago. But I think we're getting close to launch, so that's why we invited him over to come and tell you everything about the product, what you can do, and how you can do it. Before we head off in that direction, just some quick updates. For Scepter rewards, staking rewards should be coming in tomorrow. They will come in automatically when Flare has made them claimable. And then the next Flare drop is on the 4th of January. And that leads to us opening up free staking from 1400 UTC on February the 4th, right after the Flare drop has been added to the pool. Then as Flare is getting close to getting an FDSO feed, which we are really happy about. I'm waiting for a date, but as you all know, by now that's the first step to being able to use Flare also for F assets. So we are really looking forward to that. Then one of the things that have been asked from us probably a million times by now, and it has been kind of difficult, but I think we are getting close. We are currently working hard on getting a first version of personal rewards for Scepter out, so you'll be able to see, based on the data that we have, what your rewards are. And then, let's see, last but not least, we've posted a blog post about cooldown times on of course on Scepter, why it exists, comparisons with other networks, and also of course like how you can get around it and what the things are to think about when you use, for instance, a DEX to get around it. If you have any questions during this session, please ask them in Discord in our Q&A channel or on Telegram in our AMA channel. All right, let's get going. So, Santiago, welcome back. XDFi, when?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support that you guys have been giving us throughout. It's been very, very valuable to us. And I'd like to say that so much has changed since we first announced the development of our project. I would say that we're almost 180 degrees off from where we were last year, both in the kind of regulatory atmosphere that we're operating under and the kind of technological opportunities that have occurred since we first started. For example, the FTSO version 2 didn't exist when we first started development of XDFi protocol, and that has been a huge improvement from a performance standpoint, from ensuring that all of the transactions that occur on the protocol execute reliably and with a much higher degree of accuracy. So for us, so many great things have happened that it's been a mixed blessing. As these things have occurred, we've had to go back to the drawing board, refactor a whole number of things on the protocol. Again, every time you make a change, you want to make sure that it's safe and reliable for all the users and customers. There's been a lot of lessons learned there for people deploy smart contracts that have not been properly audited and had exploits. So for us, our long delay, we've had about a 10-month delay, have been this combination of all these factors: regulatory, tech stack, audits, these kind of things. But we believe very strongly in being absolutely responsible with protocols that handle other people's value. There's nothing more important to us than ensuring that when you transact with a protocol like XDFi, it's in a safe and reliable manner. And you don't have to worry about the kind of things that we're trying to fix in the traditional financial system. Long story short, we're super happy to be here and showcase what we've built and make some announcements about when things go live and explain some of the decisions that we've made in terms of feature set. So thanks, Lex.
Cool. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it. I had the privilege of trying out a preview, which was pretty sweet. So I guess, of course, the when question has already been asked. It will be asked also by the users, I've noticed. So everybody is kind of like, ready to go. Will you be able to show us what it looks like right now, how it works, and explain to people a bit about it?
Okay, so first of all, when we're going to do a soft launch on Thursday this week.
This Thursday. Correct. That's 2 days from now.
That's 2 days from now. People will be able to use the production version of the XDFi protocol. So I'll back up and just explain what it is in the first place. Something I forgot to mention, which is my fault, but one of the reasons we also refactored a lot of our smart contracts was to allow for SFLR. So that was a huge impetus for us, and that's one of the reasons we came out here. I failed to mention that. It's like one of the most important reasons.
We are grateful.
So what is XDFi protocol? For us, it's an ability for people to take a position about the future price of some asset. So for example, if you believe Bitcoin will be $110,000 at the end of the day, you can buy a contract that will either take a long or short position. So it's a type of derivative that people use to hedge risk, to speculate, but it is based primarily on the price of something. And that capability can be extended to all kinds of asset classes beyond just Bitcoin and crypto. Our plans for XDFi is really to make this a multi-asset class protocol. And we chose the Flare network specifically because the FTSO is really the only reliable way of bringing in enshrined and reliable data to a decentralized network for use in executing a financial transaction. It's so much more than just a basic oracle. It really is the result of a very powerful game theory competitive process. And that's the only way you can 100% be assured that, the outcome of an event that's predicated on a price input is reliable and accurate. And we think that it will eventually be the gold standard for any kind of decentralized financial transaction that has to rely on an input from the outside world. For now, it's time series type of information, prices that change moment by moment. But in the future, it's going to be a whole wide range of different kinds of data. So for us, picking Flare network in particular was really about finding a home where we could express our vision for a reliable futures protocol. Okay, so that was a mouthful, but basically when you go on the XDFi protocol website, it's a portal to access a few services. The first is the ability to match you with other individuals who are counter to your position. So if I thinking Bitcoin is going to go up in price and I'm going to go long, the protocol will match you with someone who's on the opposite side of that. So Lex might be thinking he's going to go short. And we basically use the protocol as a matching engine. We match willing counterparties that are eligible to be matched with one another. So what does that mean, eligible? Let's say Lex was part of a North Korean, hacking ring, and he found himself on a sanctions list by the Department of Justice. The protocol will look for a token in Lex's wallet that proves that he is or is not. And if he is, the protocol won't match his position and mine. They'll keep them separate so that there's no possibility of me as a participant violating some kind of sanctions, KYC, AML rule. And this is very important if we really want to scale this technology to an institutional global level. You need to put in the kinds of safeguards and controls that would avoid a large player like that from violating a major sanctions law or such, because they literally cannot participate in this space unless they have certain assurances that their transactions and their activity isn't going to run them afoul of the law. They can't risk it to their business or their reputation. But at the same time, we don't want to re-centralize all of the activities and act as an intermediary. That would just bring us right back to the traditional financial system that we're trying to improve on. So we came up with this use of this special token called a KYC token, which does all of this for us. And then the protocol does the matching and the permissives. It decides if you are eligible matches, and then it will allow the decentralized contracts to execute. And we think that's extremely powerful, both conceptually and technically, because it can be applied to any other protocol, any other system that really needs to ensure that their counterparties are eligible. It could be used for. And so really there's no excuse in DeFi any longer for running afoul of some legitimate government law or rule. And so we're hoping to eventually offer that service to any other number of protocols so that they can use a KYC token and then be able to provide the same level of guarantees to their users. So long story short, we hope that futures is a great start, and the matching and sale of these long and short contracts will give the community the ability to express how they see the directionality of pricing on various asset classes. So we encourage people to really experiment, try the protocol, let us know why it might be too complicated, maybe if there's certain friction or pain points that you find. We really want your feedback because we want this to be a community-led protocol. Our ultimate vision is eventually to decentralize as much of the stack as possible. And what I mean by that is even the portals, gateways, websites, whatever you want to call them, that interact with the smart contracts on chain, we want to abstract that, make it either open API or literally open code base, open source, where people can contribute and change it, use their own. We made design decisions on how people interface with the protocol. Why are we the experts necessarily? Someone else may have much better design decisions. So we want to fully decentralize the entire stack, all the way down to the root, from the smart contracts up to the cloud processing. And one of the ways we think that we'll be able to do that is by having what we call a decentralized dividend. That doesn't exist in crypto right now, but essentially a decentralized dividend is where the protocol owners receive the protocol fees. So right now, if Lex and I enter into a long and short counter position with each other, when that position settles at the end of the day, the protocol removes a little bit of the settlement funds to pay as a fee for the processing of those smart contracts and the overhead relating to maintaining it. What a decentralized dividend essentially is saying, okay, the beneficiary of that fee, who gets that value? Right now, the only people who get that value are the company that built it, which is Sindric Solutions, the company built that XDFi protocol. We think that the protocol has much more potential than just one company benefiting from the use of it. And so a decentralized dividend is codified smart contracts, which when the protocol collects its fee at settlement, disperses it to the XDFi owners, which is the community. So we literally want to decentralize this and have the community own the protocol, contribute to the protocol, and Sindric essentially rides off into the sunset. We become just another member of the community supporting and maintaining the protocol. This shouldn't be a radical idea in crypto. Unfortunately, the lure of crypto is for companies to kind of remain at the center of their protocols forever. And that carries with it not just some burdens, but some regulatory risk. It carries with it some security risks. We think by fully decentralizing the stack that we can eliminate many of those risks, not just for ourselves, but for the users and the community. So I said a lot there, so I'll stop there and let you ask some questions.
No, I mean, the Flare community is, as I've noticed, all about decentralization. So I think what you're saying doesn't fall on deaf ears, as they say. So I'm looking forward to seeing that work. I can definitely, see another person or another company using your smart contracts, and then via your sort of like a decentralized dividend, getting their part of the dividend to pay for it, while also paying their users again. So, I think in that sense, we have the same idea that, everybody should benefit from DeFi. It's not the same thing as with traditional finance, where basically the bank just hawks everything.
Exactly.
and you're just like, I have no idea my money is just gone for a night. I went from one of my bank accounts to another one of my bank accounts, but it's not there yet for some reason. What are they doing with it? And of course, like DeFi allows way more visibility for all of these kind of things, and instant transfers often.
I'm happy you brought that point up, because I think as an analogy, it's a great analogy where in the traditional financial systems, there aren't bearer instruments. The people who hold your money, you're essentially lending it to them. And so in the process of lending it to them, they could do with it whatever they want. If they want to use it for an overnight sweep to make interest on your money and not share it with you, there's really nothing you can do except leave that particular bank or financial and go to another one maybe that might offer something better. And so your choices in terms of how your assets are utilized and how you accrue value from those assets are fairly limited, and it's a fairly asymmetric relationship. It's not a very fair relationship. So it's an understatement to suggest that a crypto is a potentially has a huge opportunity to fix that problem. I'm actually surprised that you look at a venue like, let's say, Binance, and I'm not picking at Binance. I use Binance, but Binance has a BNB token, for example. Why is it that the BNB token holders don't collect all the Binance fees? I've never understood that. If that's the token that represents your product and facilitates a lot of the transactions on their chain, why doesn't any of the value necessarily accrue from the business activity itself? And so that's what we're hoping to introduce into the world here, is through this decentralized dividend, is that the business cases that are built on top of these smart contracts and these protocols, the value from that should accrue to the users, to the owners of the protocol in a very decentralized manner. And that's not to say that we won't accrue value ourselves as the creators, but it doesn't have to remain like that forever. And we think that ultimately that results in much faster growth and much more benefit for everybody, including ourselves. I mean, we're selfish. We want to profit and do well.
You need to eat too, right?
Yes, we need to eat too. So it's not completely egalitarian. We're not saying we're giving this away. What we're saying is we think that this would grow and increase in value for everyone at a much faster rate if we open it up and share that accrual with everyone else. So,
all right. Would you care to show something of
sure.
the current version?
Yeah, I'll try. So This is a production. What I'm going to share with now is a production environment on the it's running on the Flare network mainnet. To do this demo in the first place, I had to go through a process of obtaining this KYC token we talked about earlier. So I've already gone through that process. So if you try this, you should expect the first time that you go through it, you're going to have to go through this process yourself. And it's a process very similar that you might use at, opening up your Coinbase account, where you go through a third-party provider. They might do the ID check, take your camera photo kind of thing. If you've been in crypto long enough, we've all done it. So this is no different than that. When going through that process, the information that's shared, none of it goes to either the company that built XDFi, which is Sindric, or the XDFi protocol itself. None of the personally identifiable information ever hits the chain. It doesn't hit our servers. It goes to this third-party licensed KYC provider. And so that's super important for people to understand that going through this process does not reveal your identity to anyone else on chain. It doesn't help anyone make associations to your wallet. And that was super important for us to preserve pseudo-anonymity. In the future, in our roadmap, we have a plan to introduce actual zero-knowledge proof-enabled privacy so that you can enter into private pools. Let's pretend Fidelity and BlackRock wanted to have their own futures pool where they take long and short positions against each other. There's no reason why they would have to share all of their transactions between one another with me or with some other competitor like, Goldman Sachs. And so privacy, especially in a public network, is super important. And on our roadmap is going to be strategies for deploying that properly with zero knowledge proofs. But for now, pseudo-anonymity is the game. And we preserve that by making sure none of your PII ever lands on anything related to the protocol. But okay, so I'll share my screen.
And I'll admit I've done this as well for the preview. It was painless, except for the usual pain of having to take out your ID and making a picture of it. But knowing that it doesn't go to the company that's asking for it already helps a lot. And as far as I know, you basically just get some kind of NFT in your wallet. Is that how it works in this case?
Yeah. So the KYC token, excuse me, it utilizes a special ERC standard that we've modified to essentially administratively bind it to your wallet. So you can't sell or transfer your KYC token to somebody else. And obviously that's important because if you could, it would defeat the purpose of,
I would see a market immediately.
Yeah, I mean, people would be selling their KYC tokens to North Korea, right? So, it makes sure that the user who obtains the token is valid, right, through this third-party verification service. Now, people who are legitimate can become illegitimate. So at some point in time, you commit a crime or you end up on a sanctions list, the token is refreshed, right? And so the token can be essentially rendered moot, where the protocol won't process a transaction if all of a sudden you land on a sanctions list, right? So if tomorrow I decided to go sell plutonium to North Korea and I end up on a sanctions list, my KYC token would be revoked, and then I wouldn't be able to process any transactions.
On the other hand, if you succeeded in doing that, you probably don't need to do anything anymore.
That's true. That's true. Why am I processing transactions in the first place? But it's important to note that if you're in the middle, let's say this happens and you're in the middle of a transaction. Let's say you've already purchased a futures contract, and you're waiting for it to settle, which happens at the end of each day. What would happen is essentially the deposit contract that exists on the Flare network, that's the contract that holds your funds. It holds Flare and it holds SFLR as well. And it will do so until the contract sees a valid KYC token in your wallet. So if you lose your KYC token halfway through a settlement period, at the end of the day, when it goes to settle, if it doesn't see that token, it won't disperse the settlement funds and credit you. And that is that's a very important point, because it's not that Sindric, the company, seizes it, or the protocol seizes it, or any type of law enforcement action. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that the contract is essentially just waiting for you to be a legitimate KYC holder again. And it will just wait and wait and wait. Now, if for whatever reason you get a pardon from Mr. Trump and you're no longer sanctioned, the KYC token would automatically be minted and then deposited in your wallet, and the settlement would occur, right? And so there's essentially a way for people to get out of the sanctioned black hole by just, through whatever off-chain legal means that are available for that. So we didn't want to put ourselves in as an intermediary or determinant as to whether something should be dispersed or not. Our criteria was very clear. You are, if you have an eligible KYC token, the transaction will automatically occur, and if you don't, it won't until you do. So we don't custody anybody's assets. We don't facilitate any of these transactions off chain. All of settlement occurs on chain. And the nice thing about that is people can inspect if they have the expertise, inspect all of these smart contracts and validate the claims that I've been making so far. But can you see my screen?
Yeah. So lesson learned, do not sell plutonium while you have an outstanding order.
Exactly. Or otherwise you won't settle your
Otherwise you won't get it back. All right.
So this is admittedly, this is a fairly complex or busy type of user interface, because it was designed for semi-sophisticated traders who are looking to hedge their positions. On our roadmap is a plan to abstract this into a very, very simple, short form kind of flow. But this is really the full-blown protocol picture, of features and information that you would see once you have your KYC token. So I'll go through it quickly just to explain some of the aspects here. So what you're seeing on the front page here is essentially the price action of the asset that you might want to take a position on. In this case, it's XRP, and this price action, we feed it to the user one of two ways. This is just a standard TradingView price feed, which we get from TradingView API. But we also have the FTSO. So this is the price that is delivered to all FTSO users via the Flare network. And so you can compare how TradingView price is to the FTSO price. And you can see there's a little bit of a delta there. All of our smart contracts settle based on the FTSO price, not TradingView. And that's for obvious reasons that we already discussed in terms of decentralizing. But it's important for the user to understand that those two options are there, at least for making assessments. In the top, you'll see all of these various assets, which are the assets we currently offer in these futures contracts: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Flare, SFLR, XRP, Doge, and Trump coin. Just to play around, we thought it would be fun to offer the ability to take a long or short position on Trump coin. So these assets all receive their pricing. The prices you see here at the top come from the FTSO. They don't come from an exchange. They come from the FTSO. And then we have here on the left different kinds of contracts that you can buy. So I can buy a Bitcoin contract, an Ethereum contract, etc. Now, for each of those contracts, I can buy one for today, which today is the 28th. That would be the 28th contract. And what that means is that whatever position I take, it will settle today. Now, I can buy a contract in advance for tomorrow, the day after, all the way up to a week in advance. I can buy a contract. Of course, it becomes much more difficult to predict what the price might be, 7 days out into the future, but the option is there for you to go long or short. So this daily contract option, eventually we're going to make it into weekly, monthly, and perpetual type of contract purchases. So for now, they're daily contracts. They're for each of these assets, and you can buy them in advance up to 7 days. Okay. Any questions on that?
Well, we have the Q&A later, so my questions.
Okay. If you have anything you want to interject or ask, feel free.
No, I think we get to that later if I miss something in the explanation.
Now, let's say I click one of these contracts. Let's do the contract for today. What you'll see is a contract address. And this is very important because this is the contract that manages all the positions on the Flare network using the FTSO. This contract, this link essentially allows you to do the inspection we talked about, and you can verify that what you're purchasing, swapping for this contract, this position, you can review it, and that's super important and will become increasingly important for institutional investors. So that level of transparency, we want to make sure that we maintain at all times. Each contract, when we first start this, all the contracts are going to be sold at a rate of 10,000 FLR per contract. We also allow users to buy the contracts with SFLR. So if you look on the top right, I can drop down from Flare and pick SFLR. And so the SFLR contracts and the Flare contracts are exactly the same. They're exactly the same in the way that the smart contracts operate, the way they settle, the way they use the FTSO. There is no difference. And we did that intentionally because many individuals don't want to give up on their potential staking rewards from the FTSOs or the validators. By offering SFLR, you can take advantage of both the SFLR program and the XDFi protocol long and short contracts. So they're the same. Now, we all know that SFLR is not one-to-one to FLR. And so this automatically does the conversion for you, so you don't have to do the math, so that when you buy a position, it tells you exactly how many SFLR you need to purchase the contract.
I see it up there also, right, to the left, right next to that contract address. I saw it change.
Yes, exactly.
First it was 10 FLR, and now it's 7.98.
Exactly. And so for us, that conversion, for now, we're using the interface that you guys provided us, right?
Yeah.
If this were to add to the FTSO, like you guys have been asking for, we probably would decentralize that too, right? We would make it so that the FTSO is what delivers this conversion factor. And as we go, again, our trajectory is to make every aspect of this, even the website itself, would be decentralized. And we think that's how we get to be long-term persistent. Okay, so that's the nice thing. You can buy futures contracts with Flare or SFLR. You can buy them for all of these assets. You can buy them for 1 day at a time, up to 7 days into the future. And then at the bottom here, you see some of the contracts that have already settled, and it explains to you the contract address for where it's settled, the price it's settled at. And I haven't done many of these orders, but you can do either market or limit orders. And I won't get into the differences in that right now, but it essentially allows you to more options for being matched with somebody else in the order book, whether you do a limit order or a market order. A market order, by the way, is within a 1% band of the current price. And so that will automatically match you with anyone else within that 1% band. So you don't have to worry about picking a precise price to go long or short on. It will just match you. Whereas a limit order you're trying to be more precise with what your estimation of future price is going to be, and you would be added to an order book. Because we haven't launched this officially yet, our order book is blank. We've been doing internal trades between ourselves and long and short orders to verify that everything is working properly. I'll turn your attention to this red text here. So this red text it's a countdown meter. What this means is that for this particular contract, it will count down for 11 hours and 37 minutes until the end of the day today on East Coast US time. And at that point, the smart contracts will look for the price of the asset, let's say the price of XRP. It will go out to the FTSO, get the price of XRP, and it will compare it to the price you submitted for your contract and whether you were long or short. So let's play a little game of pretend. Let's say I went short and I thought XRP was going to be, I don't know, $4 tonight at the end of the day. And you went short and you're like, no, it's probably going to be $3.10. You end up being much closer to the price and you're short. What would happen is the smart contract would disperse the funds that were due to each of us respectively. I would pretty much lose most of what I invested into the purchase of the contract because I was wrong by a lot, whereas you would gain everything that I lost. That's how this protocol works, is when you enter into a position, the funds that you use to enter into that position are deposited on chain into an escrow, and then your funds are matched with my funds. And then it's kind of like a bet, if you will. And then at the end of the day, when the prices materialize in reality, that bet is settled and the funds get dispersed to either you or me in proportion to how close we were to our prediction. And so funds, basically contracts settle peer-to-peer. There is no intermediary that is settling these contracts. Sindric doesn't custody, I don't custody it. There's no one involved in that transaction except for you and the person that you were matched with, your counterparty. Does that make sense?
Yeah, does to me.
Yeah, and so this counter is just telling you how much time you have left before that whole process of settlement occurs, and those funds are dispersed.
All right.
So that's essentially it with respect to the front end of the platform. And then over on the right, you see this little white kind of address bar. What that is kind of your activity bar. You open up this drawer, and in here, it tells you a bunch of information about how much Flare you might have in your wallet or SFLR. It tells you whether you have a KYC token or not. I happen to have mine. You can also click on this tokens subdrawer, and in here, it'll show you, okay, I've got one KYC token that's valid. I don't have any governance tokens, and we don't need to get into that, but essentially, eventually, the community will be able to decide on a lot of the critical parameters here. And the way they'll make that decision is through accumulation of governance tokens. But for now, what matters is that I have my KYC token. I can execute trades, or I can take positions on long or short. And I have all the tools I need to do that. I can deposit some SFLR. I can deposit some Flare into the deposit contract, and then I can take a position long or short. On the left, it's the basic things you would expect from any type of advanced trading engine, which is information about things that have settled, orders that you might have ongoing, and funds that have been dispersed to the various parties at the time of settlement. So all of these things you'll have as tools and indicators for your normal trading activities. Just to make 100% clear, we never custody or trade any of these spot or underlying assets. So even though we take a futures position on Bitcoin, there is no Bitcoin that's moving. There's no Ethereum or XRP that's being moved or deposited. It's just the price of those assets.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's a way to submit tickets if you have a problem. Those tickets come to us to help resolve any any issues or misunderstandings, answer questions, those kinds of things.
All right.
Yeah. So
Clear.
Yep. Any question? I'll stop sharing this unless you want to see anything else.
No, I think you shared most of it. What are the notifications? What kind of notifications can I get?
Yeah, so great question. As things occur in the process, so for example, if you deposit a certain amount of SFLR for the purchase of a contract, you'll get an email, right?
Yeah.
If you get matched with someone on the opposite side of the trade, like if I'm going long, you're going short, and we match, you'll get an email. If when at the end of the day it settles and you know how much of your funds are dispersed, you'll get an email, right? So this way you have accurate accounting records for the future if you want to file your taxes or do a P&L.
All right, understood.
Yeah. And part of our roadmap is to integrate all of those compliance tools for you. Nobody likes to do taxes in crypto, but institutions need to do taxes, and legal individuals need to do taxes. And so we want to make it as easy for you as possible, where you hit one button, it will look at all of your contract executions for the year and generate a report for you that you can give to your accountant or submit to your Internal Revenue Service and do your taxes, right? So we want to make that as easy as possible, because I have 1 million Uniswap transactions, and who knows, what my tax basis is on 99% of that. It's very painful. So we want to eliminate all that on behalf of the users.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. Well, thank you for that whole demo. Let's move to the Q&A section and see what people have been asking. The questions will appear on screen. Yeah. What is the difference between futures and perpetuals? So I didn't know that either, I have to admit.
Yeah, I'll try my best. And I'm not a derivatives expert by any means, but my understanding, and feel free to correct me online. I don't mind being wrong. I'm fine. The way I see the difference is in terms of the duration of the contract, right? So right now we offer a contract that you purchase for a given day and it expires on that same day. Some people like to say, hey, whatever the outcome of that is, just roll it back in for tomorrow, and then tomorrow roll it back in for the day after that, and it just automatically rolls over for you. And that's what I consider a perpetual, where at any time during that process, you can interrupt that rollover and just settle, and you've concluded your participation. But it's an automated way of taking a futures from a set duration, but extending it perpetually.
So basically the system would be buying a new contract for you every day.
Every day, automatically.
With the same settings, unless you interfere.
That's correct. Exactly. And so I view a perpetual as just saying, I want this automatic process to occur on my behalf under these certain conditions forever. Perpetually.
Yes. All right. What's the next question? Can contracts be opened for longer time frames, 1 month or longer?
Oh, that's been our biggest question, and we intend to offer. Look, in any new protocol, the first most important challenge is making sure that there's enough people on both sides of the contract, long and short, that you match them. And the further out you go in duration, the more difficult it is to get large number of people to be in the order book so that they can be matched. So our strategy was to first start with daily futures, which is where we think the highest likelihood of matching will occur. And then as the order book becomes deeper and we have more users and the kind of network effects kick in, we'll offer longer and longer durations, weekly, monthly, et cetera. As long as duration as the market has an appetite for, will support. From a technical perspective, they operate exactly the same way. The only difference is when do they settle, tonight or next month, but everything else will be the same.
Yep. All right, thank you. What's next? When we answered, right? I mean, the date would be the 30th.
Correct.
For those who were just like Thursday, 2 days from now, yes, that's the 30th for most of us here. And are you starting with gold and silver? Those are not up there right now.
No, they're not. And it's very soon on our roadmap. I'm hoping by the end of this first quarter, which is maybe within a month or two, we'll have those golden futures, silver futures, and other asset classes. Hopefully we bring in other commodities, which are also very exciting, especially these days, on like oil, wheat, corn futures. These things are, there's a lot of volatility in there to take advantage of in terms of price action. So we want to roll that out as quickly as we can. Again, going back to what we talked about earlier, every time you roll one of these asset classes out, you want to make sure there's enough long and short buyers on both sides, right? And so you have to kind of cultivate, first of all, people need to become aware that it's an option. And then you have to bring them to the platform and they have to kind of go through the learning curve of how it works and so forth. So that will be a process that we build out, but it's very, very high on our list and we're focused on it. Just so you know, this is, I haven't announced this anywhere else, but I'll announce it now. The first 300 people that go through the KYC process will earn a free contract purchase. So that's equivalent to 10,000 FLR in value. You basically will get a free contract, either long or short. And then when the contract settles at the end of the day, if you're a winner, your position is better than the other position, you would be the beneficiary of that. So you get your free contract worth 10,000 FLR. At the end of the day, let's say it settles at 15,000 FLR, you would get all of that for free. So there's no cost to you, no risk, but that only applies, unfortunately, to the first 300 people. So I encourage you to take advantage.
All right. I think you said something about the first 300 people, but for some reason, as soon as you started to announce something that hadn't been announced anywhere else, I got technical difficulties.
I can repeat it if you'd like, or do you need me to repeat it?
No, I think our users got it. So
okay, good. So you don't get to participate. Sorry.
Well, I don't. No, I don't. All right. What is the goal for extending contract durations?
Yeah. So the goal is users. Really, it's the community. It's making sure that we have enough people on both the short and the long side. For any duration, monthly, weekly, etc., that you have a good experience. You want to go on there and take a position and then find someone that you match with. So the best way you can help us is to get the word out that it's something that's going to be available. And then we'll try to communicate in advance to let people know when, let's say, weekly futures are coming out. And by spreading the word, we ensure that more and more people will use it and will have a better experience. So it's really, for us, it's very easy to deploy those contracts. There's very little technical lift. It's just really a matter of making sure you have a good experience.
Yeah, I get that. I have had similar experiences in gaming where there's no one to match you with. So you're just like,
exactly.
Okay, this is not a great game for me anymore. Yep. And I guess that's why you probably won't be having a futures anytime soon for golden delicious apples or something.
Exactly.
All right. From the start to launch, how was your interaction with the Flare team and Flare Foundation?
Unbelievable. They've been an absolute pleasure to work with. They've been supporters of us the entire time. They saw our vision. They see the potential for both the network and just decentralized finance in general. They understood, when we proposed, for example, the KYC token, that's a radical idea in crypto because it's the idea that you would have to comply with some kind of external process to crypto is it's an anathema for a lot of people. But if we really want to scale this to billions of people and institutional levels, we need more than just ETFs. We need processes that allow them to use the system. And as crypto exists now, the only thing institutions can do is hold crypto, and even barely that. They can't even use it because they don't have the compliance tools to do it properly. And so for now, most institutional participation in crypto is through an intermediary, right? This is the exact thing we were trying to build away from. They have to go through a Coinbase, or they have to go through a large third party that intermediates that transaction. That's not what we set out to do. So this is the first step, I believe, in real disintermediation and decentralization. But Flare was amazing. The Flare Foundation has been amazing. They've lent engineering resources, marketing resources. Absolute pleasure to work with.
It's also my experience in general, and in the entire ecosystem, basically. I think that is probably one of the great things of working in the Flare ecosystem, is that we can work together with various protocols and with Flare, and there's never that tension that might exist, or people are just like not responding to you at all. So
100%. This call here is testament to that, right? Where we were put together because this is such a good community to build and collaborate with. So there's no better evidence than that.
Yeah. What are your pros and cons of using Flare?
My original con was the Ethereum virtual machine, just simply because the Solidity environment, it has a lot of opportunity for exploit. It's not as advanced a kind of language that you would hope for maximum security. Unfortunately, it's the language that's most ubiquitous in the crypto world because of Ethereum and a lot of the layer twos. And I understand why the Flare team decided to incorporate the EVM. I do know that they're considering other implementations in virtual machines, and I'm very excited to see where that goes, because there are a lot of languages out there, virtual machines, that are much more rigorous, and would avoid us having to do the really deep audits that we had to ensure users were safe. So that's the biggest con, and that's not really Flare's fault. That was a pragmatic decision. Besides that, the original version 1 of the FTSO had some limitations in terms of how frequent information came in and so forth, and that's been well remediated with version 2, and we're very, very happy about that. So this is a network that continues to learn and progress and improve on, and that's what you want to see. You want to see a very dynamic, nimble network that is really providing service to its members, its constituents, and so that's what I see.
All right. Where do you see the project going, and what is your 5 years goal? Oh my goodness. 5 years.
No, a great question. Well,
5 years in crypto, what is that?
Yeah. Let's put it this way. I'm not a trading expert. I'm not a derivative expert. Nothing would make me happier than having a suite of agents that I could deploy, which know everything about technical analysis, fundamental sentiment, and could make a set of recommendations for me. Or if I gave it some criteria, say, here's $10,000 worth of value, go and do your best to double it in this time frame. And using my risk appetite and criteria, it would go out into the world and do all of the contract purchases that I need to achieve that goal in the time frame I specified. So for us, we have very much in mind on our roadmap to build these assistants so that any average person who doesn't need to know what a futures is, what a derivative is, can deploy their value and with a very high level of confidence achieve their financial goals. So AI agents is huge on our roadmap. Different asset classes, as I mentioned before, including indexes, which is something that we are very excited about, is like taking a futures position, say on NASDAQ, it would be very interesting to let people express that. We don't think that currently exists in crypto, at least not in our version. So extending it to different asset classes and index types, and then making a much more decentralized stack, right, where anyone can contribute to the XDFi protocol at any level of the stack. So it could be better front ends than what I showed you today, better websites, better APIs, better signals, whatever you can imagine, really opening it up. That's our goal.
All right. And people, 5 years, like, a couple of months can feel like years in crypto. So 5 years is is extreme. When will you launch your project on Songbird or Flare? Well, Flare, we just, that's definitely been announced. I don't know if you have any plans for Songbird at this moment.
We're going to let the community decide. So if there's a lot of demand, Songbird is the canary network of Flare. So it has all the same properties, and the FTSO, it works just as well. So for us, again, it's not a heavy technical lift. We just wanted to make sure we didn't fragment the liquidity we talked about earlier, right? If we want to make sure that you have a good experience and that there's a good match for you on the long or short, splitting it between two networks at inception would fragment it. But if this gets adoption like we hope and expect, then we would be happy to launch it on Songbird, especially if there's demand there. And I'll let you in on a little secret. We really want to introduce cross-chain order books. So this would be where a long on Songbird could be matched with a short on Flare, and the settlement would then disperse a combination of both tokens. And so that would be a really nice abstraction, so people don't have to worry about it, and it would improve the depth of the order book. Yeah. And we plan on doing that for many chains. So it'd be very exciting to bridge Flare and futures contracts on a number of different chains.
And you could do that because the basic price of what you put in is the same, right? So it's like 10,000. For instance, if it's 10,000 Flare, it's like 1 ETH or something. And
exactly right. We decided very early on to dollar denominate the price of the contracts, and so once you do that, then any asset could theoretically be used for the purchase of that contract. And then until settlement, both the asset prices might fluctuate, but the original purchase was done at the same level,
the same price.
And so that makes for very interesting constructions where you have a variation in the foreign exchange rate, if you will. You could use stable coins in yen, in dollars, euros, and we could all trade on there. It'd be very exciting.
Yeah, super cool. All right. Yeah. What else? Is there a desktop/mobile app in the works? I guess desktop app we've just seen.
Yeah. So we made the XDFi website responsive. So if you do view it on mobile, it will adjust for your resolution and screen type. Right now, we don't have an app in planned, and precisely because we want to decentralize this. And if you make an app, you're really kind of going in the opposite direction when we're centralizing it. But if we open it up where anyone can run front ends, then anyone else will be able to write an app to the XDFi protocols, and it will work. So I'm hoping that once we get to that point, somebody will create a mobile app.
But I guess you could just use this in your mobile
Sure.
on the wallet that you have there.
Absolutely.
Whichever one that is. All
That's
right.
And speaking of wallets, we support all the major wallets, Wallet Connect, Bifrost, all the major wallets on Flare Network. We've tested them. So, but if you have any problems, let us know.
All right. Okay.
Best question yet.
I have no idea.
Yeah, basically the hat I'm wearing is a baseball team, and the New York
I'm
don't
terrible.
like us, but that's fine. I'm happy to receive the hate.
Well, I mean, they have to choose between whether or not they like to make money more than
Yes, sir.
than this. All right. I did see a question somewhere which has not been put out here because it was very long, which was basically about the new or likely new climate for blockchain and how we deal with like how competition will be at that point. I've had this question like been asked to me like personally in DMs, like, what are your views, your strategy of for the future? How do you deal with competition? I can answer that, but I'd love to hear your thought on that.
Yeah. Look, when we first started XDFi protocol, we were under a very negative regulatory regime. We're a U.S.-based company, and so that presented itself with a lot of challenges for how we properly deploy this technology. It was one of the reasons we had compliance top of mind, is to lower that regulatory attack surface. With the current administration, I think it's very clear to a lot of people that the regime will be much more amenable to experimentation and projects. That doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all. Although it might seem like it right now, I think that the more likely outcome is that we'll have a sandbox. There's a lot of other jurisdictions that have sandboxes for crypto projects so that they can experiment with different kinds of services. But that sandbox comes with certain responsibilities and registrations and will comply with all local, federal, and state laws. But we definitely think the environment has improved dramatically and has lent more fuel to the fire. We're going to work that much harder and faster now with more confidence. We don't have this kind of overhang of guillotine of the Securities and Exchange Commission or something like that. But again, we're very compliance oriented, so we weren't always too worried about that in the same way a lot of other projects had to be worried about it. But it's definitely much, much better. So very bullish. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked that question, like, how do you deal with the competition? I always, my answer to that is like, what competition? Because personally, I don't care about the competition in that sense that, I think companies that look at the competition and then try to find a way to outsmart them, I think they're way too busy looking at the competition and take way too little time making the best product for the end users. And so, that has always been my answer. The only interest I have is the people who use the project and whether or not they're happy with it. And what the competition does, and if they get something out of it, that's great for the competition. But
that's the Jeff Bezos model, right? Is the service. If you have an unrelenting commitment for service for your users, the product will sell itself. As long as you solve problems for them continuously and improve the product, you'll be successful.
Yeah, and if it doesn't happen, then you still did your best. So
that's right. Sometimes it's timing and luck. There's so many, but you got to keep trying.
Yeah. All right. Is there any last question that maybe came in after they had a laugh? Think not. No. All right, then, Santiago, thank you very much. Looking forward to Thursday. Looking forward to seeing what the results are and how people jump on it. Of course, I hope everybody uses S-Flare. I wouldn't know why you would use regular Flare because you're not getting any other rewards. But, it's up to people. As said, decentralization is important, so people should make those decisions for themselves. Thank you very much for coming on, showing the product, explaining things like futures and perpetuals to the crowd. And we expect to be back in 2 weeks. And until then, have a great time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Look forward to next time.
Cheers.